Thank you all for joining. It's not easy to find the time that fits everybody around the planet, as we have really from many parts of the world, but we're really happy that we can make it possible for so many of us to get together today. And I think now, I mean, it is 9, so let's be very Swiss and let's get slowly started, because we have a real intense and great program ahead for the next 1.5 hours. So I would like to welcome you all, or as I learned in Japanese when I was there with my parents as a kid, yokoso. So I hope I pronounced it more or less right. We're very happy to have you here today for the Tokyo Roadshow, the first day with the accelerator Tech Forever, where we're gonna look into more into femtech in Japan. So my name is Anna Sutherland. I'm working for the innovation team at Groupe Mutuel, which is one of the stakeholders behind this initiative. And together with my colleague, Nicola Loyo, we will guide you through today to try to bring you with us when we're gonna visit different stakeholders to learn how to make business in the femtech sphere in Japan. Of course, we just have 1.5 hours, so we cannot really get experts, but we really hope and aim that we'll give you a very good first glance. And then we will have a second part of this roadshow in 2 days on Thursday, starting the same time, where we will really look into the startups and pitches, and we will meet investors and so. So today, it's really the preparation. We're gonna learn and we're gonna get a lot of insights how it works in Japan. Because from what we will see, maybe it works a little bit different than what you're used to if you're based in France or in Israel or in Australia or in the US. So those particularities we're gonna dive deep into this morning. I think it's time to just have a look at the agenda. So Barbara, if you just wanna switch to the next slide. So what we're gonna do is that first we're gonna listen to Fumi Yokura, that will speak more about how to set up a business in Japan and what are the offers and the subsidies and the perks that can be offered by JETRO, which is this governmental authority NGO for this part. And then we're going to move on further to speak more about how to enter the Japan femtech market. And for that, we're proud to have Lia Camargo with us from Fermata that will give us a deep dive in that. And then finally, we will discuss how to raise interest of Japanese investors. And for that, we're really, really proud to have Tomoko Minagawa with us, that is the director for the investment group Global Brains Corporation. So that's the idea for today. And with that word, I would like to hand over to Nicola Loyo to take the stage and just explain a little bit, why are we going to Tokyo for our first roadshow? Why does Tokyo make sense? And what is it really that we can expect from these 2 days ahead of us? So with that, I just want to again say welcome. And Nicola, the floor is yours.
Yeah, thank you, Anna. You are a very big fan of Japan, so one of the reasons is this one. So minasama konnichiwa. So yeah, we will spend some time today in today and Thursday, as Anna mentioned, and we start with. It could be strange to start with Japan, but it's one of the largest market for healthcare in general and for femtech for the future. It's very interesting. It's a land of opportunity for the healthcare industry for many reasons. It's not an easy market, but it's really important to investigate this market. So there will be a roadshow. The roadshow is starting with Tokyo. The next one is in Zurich, then Boston, London, and Lausanne. And yeah, we really wanted to start with this country. There is a new dynamic in Japan in the femtech industry. It's related to the population, the evolution of the population in Japan. So the fertility, the fertility and the procreation is a very important topic, as you probably know, because the country is aging quicker than in other countries, in a country in the world, and generating some new trends in the country. At the same time, there is a very strong interest in the country for the women segments, because women are suddenly becoming more important in the economy, because there are less people, and because of course they need more people. So it's quite interesting to investigate this market. It's a very mature market, as you probably know. Most of you are coming from the health industry. You know many names coming from Japan. So it's a very important market in terms of innovation as well. And yeah, that's one of the reasons. Now, and I know it personally because I spent many years in Japan. It's cracking the Japanese market can be quite tricky. There is, of course, the language barrier, which is quite important. But then it's more important than that. It's the system is totally different. It may look a bit complex when coming from the West. And the key thing, the very important key thing, is networking and partnering and finding the right partners in Japan for developing your business with you. And one of the best way to explore Japan is getting the support from an organization like JETRO. So I'm making the introduction. Now, the JETRO is a Japan External Trade Organization. It's a government-funded agency, so it's a very well-established entity. And for instance, if you go and you want to explore the Japanese market, you can rent or have some space in Akasaka, in the central Tokyo, and benefit from many services. So today, to get more details, we will happy to welcome their representative, Fumi Jokura, who is director of the Geneva office. She will tell you more about all the details. She make a quick introduction about you, Jokura-san, but you joined JETRO in 2011, if I'm not wrong, and you are based in Switzerland since 2018. So, of course, your job is to help the collaboration between Japan and Switzerland in both directions, but you're also involved, I think, in some innovation initiatives, so trying to get the best of innovation between the two countries. So, Jokura-san, dozo yoroshiku onegaishimasu. Dozo.
ありがとうございます。Thank you very much for your introduction, Nicolas-san. Hello, everyone. My name is Fumi Jokura. I'm here from JETRO Geneva, Switzerland, to speak to you today about the introduction for doing business in Japan and how JETRO help you to dive into the Japanese market. So, can I share my screen?
Yes, please.
So, for a moment, please. So, can you see my screen?
Yes, we do.
Yes. Thank you. So, I will get started. Hello, everyone. Again, my name is Fumi Jokura. I'm here from JETRO Geneva. So, I hope my presentation gives you wide image of Japanese market and motivate you to start business in Japan. So today I am talking about 4 points. First, who is JETRO and why Japan is attractive market for you, and overview of the Japanese life science market. And lastly, I will introduce some services from JETRO to startup for entering Japan. So first of all, let me explain about who is JETRO. JETRO is a government-related organization that works to promote mutual trade and investment between Japan and the rest of the world. Our head office is in Tokyo and Osaka, and we have 3 main missions. First one is promotion of foreign direct investment to support foreign companies to set up businesses in Japan. Second one is promotion of open innovation to create partnerships between Japanese companies and foreign startups. Third one is promotion of export activities to support Japanese companies who want to export their products to overseas. One of our value is wide network inside Japan and all over the world. We have 76 offices outside of Japan and 48 offices in Japan. So if you need any help about Japanese market, please contact your nearest office in Japan. Nearest office of JETRO. Sorry. So now I will move to explain why Japan is attractive market for you. Firstly, its economic size. Japan is the world's 3rd largest economy. And Japanese economic power is not limited only in Tokyo. Regional economy has GDPs as big as those of some of the world leading countries. For example, Hokkaido, north part of Japan, where is famous for its rich natural tourism resources and food industry, has an economy as big as that of Sweden, while the Tube area, the central part of Japan, which is famous for its developed automobile and machinery industry, has an economy as big as that of Switzerland. Japan is made up of these several regional areas with unique characteristics. The amount of inward foreign direct investment into Japan has been increasing every year, reaching a record high of $309 billion at the end of 2019. In 2020, last year, despite of the presence of COVID-19, it reached high $357 billion as of the end of that second quarter. When we look at the share of the FDI stock in Japan by region, almost half comes from Europe. Japan is also attracting in terms of innovation hub. According to WIPO's survey, Tokyo and Yokohama is ranked number 1 as the world's most attracting industrial cluster. It reflects combined patenting and scientific publication performance, which considerably higher than that of second-ranked city. According to WEF report, Japan has highest number of patent application per million people. According to the report, Japanese R&D centers are also highly regarded for their active efforts. Not only Tokyo, but also local cities are eager to be innovative hub. The Japanese government has selected 8 regional cities based on these 7 strategies to become the hub cities of a global ecosystem. In these cities, the government and universities and other educational institutions are working together to foster world-class startups. Japan is also working to promote innovation in terms of tax system. A new tax system was introduced in 2020. It is called Open Innovation Promo Tax System. By using this system, when corporate or cooperative venture capital invest more than a required amount, 25% can be deducted from income tax. The investment target includes not only Japanese startups, but also overseas startups. So this new tax system is expected to encourage large companies to invest in more and more startups. So now I move to the next slide. So COVID-19 affected the Japanese market as same as other market in the world. However, interest for Japanese market from foreign companies has not weakened. Last year, JETRO conducted a survey on how COVID-19 affects the operation of foreign affiliated companies in Japan. According to that survey, over 90% of answering companies say that they have negative impact by COVID-19. The reason was the decreasing of sales and consumption mind. However, the company which plan to downsize or withdraw the businesses from Japan is less than 10%. And most of the companies said they will expand their business in Japan as scheduled or even plan to expand from now. The most common reason by them for that were Japanese large market size and high potential for industrial growth. So now I briefly explain about overview of Japanese life science market. So Pharmtech is of course very important market, but as the expert will explain this later, I guess. So now I will mention a briefly overview of the life science market in general. So life science sector is one of the growing sector in Japan. One of the reasons for that is of course growing of elderly population. As of 2020, there are almost 36 million people aged 65 and over, accounting for 28% of the total population. That it is the highest aging rate in the world. Now I will mention 5 potential life science market areas in Japan and some keywords. First one is pharmaceuticals. The pharmaceutical market in Japan in 2019 is $107 billion, which is a significant positive growth from the previous year. As the number of cancer patients and the others is increasing due to aging population, new drugs such as anti-cancer drugs are expanding their sales in Japan. Second one is medical equipment. As of 2016, Japan's medical device market size is the second largest in the world after the United States. Imports account for a large percentage of our market. It is over 60%. Many foreign medical device companies have their established bases in Japan, which means they see Japan as an important market. Third one is preventive healthcare. With the widespread use of smartphone and wearable devices, the awareness and willingness to use ICT-based digital healthcare service is increasing rapidly. Recently, the trend is to shift more to prevention and health promotion rather than treatment. Fourth one is regenerative medicine. Japan's research in regenerative medicine is among the best in the world, as demonstrated by the case of Professor Yamanaka of Kyoto University, who was awarded Nobel Prize. Additionally, the Pharmaceutical Affairs Law was amended in 2014 to allow for faster approval procedure for regenerative medical products. Last one is nursing care service sector. nursing care market is expanding rapidly. By 2025, the population of the late elderly who is aged 75 years and over is expected to represent a quarter of the total population. There is a growing trend for foreign investment funds to enter the Japanese nursing care market, for example, acquisition of senior housing businesses in Japan. So lastly, I'd like to introduce JETRO services for startups when you enter Japanese market. As I mentioned before, one of JETRO's main mission is to help foreign companies to set up businesses in Japan. Since 2003, JETRO supported 21,000 cases. In 2019, JETRO led 95 projects succeeded in establishing operation in Japan. When we see the detail of success cases, the largest number came from the North America, followed by Asia and Europe. By industry, ICT-related services present largest share at 40%. Pharmaceutical and medical equipment-related services represent 8.4% now, but we hope this would be growth in near future. And Tokyo was the most common destination at 60%, but there were also companies that established based other cities like Kanagawa or Fukuoka, something like that. So now JETRO is actively supporting tech companies. About 70% of the successful cases of JETRO 2019 involved tech company. We have 5 sectors that we focus to help. First one is tech. The second one is manufacturing, like IoT, drones, spaces, etc. Third one is life science. The fourth one is renewable energy and infrastructure. And the last one is fields mentioned in the Japanese future investment strategy. So here I will explain about the flow of JETRO's service to enter into the Japanese market. We can support you all steps to get into Japanese market. So first of all, please contact your nearest JETRO office. We will hear your company profile and business plan and register you as our support case. Then first phase is information gathering stage. We have tons of business market information about Japan, and sometimes we also can create tailor-made report for your company. National and regional incentives information is also available, and we can also provide you information related visa, regulation, taxes, etc. And when you actually set up business, we have free temporary offices in 6 major cities in Japan. It is free for up to 50 days. And we also have experts to help you, and we can provide you introduction of service providers about recruitment, real estate company, etc. Once you establish business in Japan, we also help you expand it in Japan. We can provide you business matching opportunity in Japan to connect you with Japanese local companies. And all of these services is free of charge. Additionally, due to COVID-19, the current difficulties in travel to Japan, we are providing various services online now. JETRO also helps foreign startups in terms of open innovation. Recently, JETRO creates new platform called J-Bridge to support open innovation between Japanese companies and foreign startups. By this platform, we provide kinds of event of pitch, business matching, and seminars, etc., to connect the needs of Japanese companies and technology of the technology of the startups. And we have target countries and priority fields, as you see in the slide. In the meantime, for initially, in United States and Europe, initially we are focusing on carbon neutral sectors. And JETRO also create matching opportunity to connect foreign startups and Japanese company by using occasion like big trade fair like CTEC. CTEC is Japanese biggest tech trade fair, which held in Chiba every year. Due to COVID, we held it online 2020. JETRO creates pavilion called JETRO Global Connection, which startups can exhibit to introduce their technologies to Japanese company. On 2020, 45 companies from 17 countries exhibited for JETRO's Global Connection. From here, Switzerland, one startups developing DNA analysis kit for food sector exhibited our pavilion. And additionally, before COVID, we invited selected startups to Japan, and they moved to local area like Kyoto or Fukuoka after they exhibit CTEC, and they also enjoyed the opportunities for networking with local companies, university, research centers. And we provide kinds of information about Japanese market on our website. Please search by JETRO Invest by Google so that you can find our website specialized for Invest Japan. Incentive information from local governments is also available on this website. If you do a research, as you can see on the slide, you can find information of subsidies and other incentives programs from each local governments by sector and by region. For example, if you search by sector of life science, you will find that more than 50 Japanese local governments provide you incentive programs. So lastly, I will introduce some system which Japanese government offers you. Japanese government is also working on deregulation to promote entrepreneurship in Japan among foreigners. This system called the Startup Visa is a special exception to promote the establishment of new businesses by foreign nationals. Originally, in order for foreigners to obtain a visa to establish a business in Japan, in addition to opening an office in Japan, they must meet the necessary requirement for employment or capital investment into Japan. With this startup visa, even if you do not have this requirement in place, you can still obtain a 6-month or 1-year visa after submitting a plan to the local government office and passing the examination. By using this visa, entrepreneurs can receive support from the local governments during the 6-month or 1-year period to prepare for full establishment of their business. This system is available with 18 local governments like Fukuoka City or Sendai City, etc. Due to pandemic and the travel restriction to Japan, unfortunately, the visa acquisition process is slow now, but when the pandemic is over, things will go back to normal. And here is another government system. To promote innovation, Japanese government also established a regulatory sandbox system. This system freezes current regulation under certain conditions and allows company to conduct demonstration tests for realizing new technologies. Foreign companies in Japan and even from overseas can apply for this system. When foreign companies want to use this system, JETRO will help them to conduct it. So this is all from my presentation. So what I really want to say is Japan is always welcoming you, and I hope we can help you to open the door to success in Japan. So if you have any inquiries, please contact us anytime. And if you are not from Switzerland, I am always happy to connect you with my colleague in your country. So thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you very much, Fumi Yukura-san. We can maybe allow 2 quick questions before moving on. So if there are any questions from the audience. Otherwise, we have a full program this morning. So then I'll let you then reach out. Afterwards, we will make the slides available to you. And then we move on further. So now when we kind of know a little bit more about the Japanese market, and me myself, I get really motivated. Like, I feel, oh, there is really opportunities here. Now we're going to move on to be a little bit more concrete about how really to enter the market and how to enter it with really the femtech view and the femtech perspective of it. So I would like to, if maybe Fumi Yukura-san could just stop sharing the screen, and I will then welcome up on stage Leah Camargo from Fermata, that will speak a little bit more from her perspective on how to enter the Japanese femtech market. So Leah, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Anna, and the Tech for Ava team for having Fermata be part of this initiative. Thank you all for your time as well. I know we're scattered across the world and across many different time zones, but I hope some of the information that we'll be able to share today is going to be useful as you consider potentially bringing your product to Japan. And I know I have some one-on-one scheduled with some of you, but even those who haven't been in touch yet, I'm very much looking forward to speaking to you on an individual basis about how your product can succeed in Japan. So I'll quickly share my screen. Hopefully everything is viewable on your end.
You see your slides, yeah.
Yep, okay, wonderful. So the overview that Jokura-san just gave about establishing an actual entity in Japan, even exploring the opportunities that may be the right way for some of you, and for others, it may be a year, 2 years, maybe a few years down the line. For Fermata, what we would like to kind of talk to you about today is the more early stage of exploration about what is actually possible if you're an earlier stage startup, or if you want to just at least start to see what the market is like on the ground when it comes specifically to femtech. So I'll give a quick overview today about what Fermata is and what we do, a bit of an overview about Japan, even though you just got a lot of information and access to free information by JETRO, but I think I'll cater a little bit more to women's health, and then introduce some possible next steps if you truly are interested in exploring possibilities in Japan with us, but just in general as well. So jumping straight to it, who are we? Fermata is a company that was established 2 years ago in 2019. So we're a startup ourselves as well. We saw this reality that the number of products around women's health and that are trying to solve a wellness that comes relating to women's health was increasing in different parts of the world. A lot of the countries that you all are from, the innovation is rapidly rising, and access when it comes to the user side is also on the rise. However, there are a lot of countries in Asia, Japan included, where the cultural, linguistic, and regulatory hurdles have so far impeded users from actually accessing not just information about your products, but also the products themselves and the services themselves. So we established a company back in 2019 to really be that market entry service provider, and then also a marketplace where we can actually sell products and make these products available to the end user. So specifically what we do on the user side of thing is that we have a online commerce site. So we have both a Japan-based and Singapore-based stores where people can actually purchase the products and explore possible solutions for themselves. We also have a brick and mortar shop, a gallery space, and partnerships with retailers so that people can actually go to a physical store, touch a product that they've never heard about or seen before, and then consider purchasing them for themselves. And then what we do for the business side, so what's more relevant to you as representatives of different startups, is that we provide registration support, representation support, localization, and distribution support. So usually what would have to happen is that you find a different entity that can support you with different types of these processes. Some of these could be, government accelerators. Some of these could be for-profit entities. But to do this in a country like Japan with 4 different entities just as baseline could be really difficult to even get that started. So what we do is act as a one-stop where you can at least get an overview of what your entry procedure could look like, and then we can help you figure out what the next steps can be. So of course, it's very catered to each company. So depending on the type of service or product you provide, the necessary processes are going to differ. But these are the general services that we provide as a company. So we have a number of partners around the world. This is actually not our most updated graphic, my apologies. But we have about 20 partners that have either already launched. Yep. Was there someone that spoke just now? No? Okay, maybe that was just me that heard that. But we have a number of products and brand partners from around the world, ranging from Korea to Finland to the US. And this number is continually growing, but depending on the stage and the type of product they provide, we also look for other partners in Japan that could really help them explore and expand their opportunities in the Japanese and Singaporean markets as well. So let's talk specifically about Japan and about femtech. I'm going to overload you guys with some information, I think, today, but I'm happy to follow up with questions at the end of my presentation, of course. So a quick overview of the market. I know Jokro-san provided a lot of information just now, but these are statistics based from a study that was done, or research that was done by the Ministry of Economy, Trade, and Industry about 2 years ago. So the population of women ages between 15 and 64 in Japan is about 40 million, and about 70% of those women are employed. These might be good bite-sized statistics for you to pull in when you're pitching to investors. About 60% from this study claimed that they experienced difficulties in the workplace due to some sort of health issue. And so that's approximately 17 million people that this one study was able to pick up. But we estimate, as from that, there's much bigger market when it comes to health issues and women. So some untapped needs that we can recognize right off the bat when it comes to femtech products is, first of all, pad users when it comes to menstruation are the vast majority. And so there is a huge untapped market when it comes to innovative menstrual products. 1 in 6 couples struggle with infertility, and we of course have a rapidly aging society. So there's so many opportunities here, and we also see a cultural shift happening. So when it comes to government initiatives, it was announced in 2020 that starting from 2021, fertility treatment aid, government aid for these treatments will increase. And in around 2022, the government announced that they will strongly consider the public insurance system to cover fertility treatment. So we see the government attitude shifting, but also the accessibility when it comes to these treatments will also change for couples that are struggling with infertility in Japan. Another thing that I should point out is that 2020 was described as year 1 of the femtech boom. So this is a quote kind of that you could pull from multiple media outlets, but the term femtech, you could say that it was unheard of in 2019, very much rarely spoken about. Today, in 2021, in May, it's becoming much more mainstream, and a lot more people recognize that there are solutions out there that can cater to their needs as women when it comes to healthcare. More things that point to this femtech boom that we're speaking about: media outlets that cover stories around women's health. It's also on the rise. Big outlets like Vogue, Nikkei newspaper, they're putting out articles on multiple times a month basis that have to do with the femtech industry and innovative products that exist around the world and that are entering Japan. Permata also provides support to non-Japan-based companies to get access to these media outlets as well. Another interesting fact that we discovered once we started as well is that the majority of Japanese people today, even young people, still watch national TV. And so when we received coverage for our brick and mortar store last July, and this was 7 o'clock, national, actually it was very much focused in Tokyo, but it did get coverage in other parts of Japan. They were holding, maybe some of you recognize, Dame Products sex toy, as well as the LV trainer, which is a smart Kegel trainer. As soon as these products were covered on the 7 a.m. news, sales for these products through our channels went up significantly within the next 2 weeks. So we see the very influential hold that national TV still has on the Japanese public. So just another statistic that could be very different from the reality in Switzerland or in other parts of the world. We also see that the interest in femtech is on the rise when it comes to retail partners. So clinics, beauty salons, department stores, and pharmacies are some of the partners that we have in selling and promoting our products in their channels. Because of this media interest, but also just the general public's interest in femtech, these retailers are also increasingly interested in providing direct-to-user kind of products, making them available in the market as well. I will now switch to less fun but very relevant topics when it comes to Japan market entry. This is the regulatory side. So this could be, I think, relevant to all femtech products to some degree, but depending on the service, it's really going to differ. So we found that femtech services and solutions either fall into one or both of these categories. You're either considered a cosmetic, quasi-drug, or medical device, or you are an electronic device. So a lot of wearables would fall into this, or both. I'll run through very briefly kind of the regulatory steps and requirements that these two kind of categories entail. So firstly, about the cosmetic, quasi-drug, medical devices. So these regulated products in Japan, the manufacturer must be registered with the PMDA, that's the Pharmaceuticals and Medical Devices Agency. This is, if you're familiar with the US system of the FDA, which I'm assuming most of you are, our PMDA is kind of the equivalent to the FDA in the US. The second point to recognize also is not just the manufacturer needing to be registered, but there must be a Japan-based market authorization holder, so MAH, that's assigned to handle quality management system compliance and shipment of medical devices and cosmetic products. Another step to also that's necessary for these regulated products is that registration documentation must be submitted to the PMDA by the MAH. So if you're a foreign entity, you can't submit the registration through your company. It would have to be done by a Japan-based entity. And I should share that Permata has licenses for cosmetic, quasi-drug, and class 1 and 2 medical devices, but we also have partners who are able to handle class 3 and above as well. So happy to make introductions where fit. Gets very specific here, so I'll share to those who this would actually be relevant to later on. Another regulatory requirement to consider if you are an electronic device, especially if it's a direct-to-consumer wearable, is that you will need to get a JETRO certified. So this is kind of similar to the CE system in Europe or the FCC in the US. It's very difficult to find English information about these services. So maybe Jokura-san from JETRO can maybe support you to look for the English language materials. We would be happy to provide this as well. But this process really entails submitting products for testing and then filling out an application form, which we can support with as well. So it should be relatively simple, but if you don't have ISO certification as a manufacturer, this could lengthen. But these are the two processes. So the PMDA registration and the JETRO registration are things that you should definitely consider and look into if your product is relevant to these. So again, I bombarded you with a lot of information, but I think what maybe you were considering is how is this relevant to our company and how can we actually explore what's possible? If you are a medical device that is relatively new, there is no existing term. A lot of the time, femtech falls into this category where there isn't a general term within the PMDA system that you fall under. You are going to be a pioneer in the Japanese industry. So you're going to be creating a completely new category and shaping the femtech industry. And that's exactly what we want to support you with. We have been able to do this with a Netherlands-based company where we created a new term within the PMDA system to provide a fertility support product. So these are the kinds of things that you need to consider, and the timeline for this could very much vary depending on the type of service you provide. So definitely put that into consideration as you're looking into launch dates and potential partnerships. So let me give you some specifics of how perhaps Fermata can provide support within the next few months, maybe from the next year. So we provide kind of engagement opportunity and empowerment opportunities that also educate the everyday consumer, as well as retail partners and industry leaders about femtech through an event series called Femtech Fest. They average about 100 to 200 attendees. And now we've switched to online, of course, because of COVID, but hopefully we'll be going back to in-person within the next few months. And in the fall of 2021, we will be hosting a Japanese government-backed conference that's very focused around femtech. So even if your launch in Japan could be next year or the year after, or you already have partners that are based in Japan, it would be great to have your product and your service represented at these kinds of conferences to be able to reach the stakeholders that are actually going to shape the success of your service in Japan. So that's one way we could support you immediately. We also have a very new initiative. The first meeting actually just happened today, but we have a working group in alliance with the Ministry of Health, Labor and Welfare, as well as other industry leaders when it comes to medical devices, to relook at regulations when it comes to health tech, life science innovations, especially around women's healthcare. So if your product is one, especially that doesn't fall into these neat categories, these general terms that exist, this will be a great opportunity to be a part of so that you can actually first get exposure to some of the industry leaders and government officials, but also there could be a fast track to actually get you through the system that's very clear. Here is the roadmap of what you need to do regulatory wise to get your product actually legally available in the Japanese market. So the big kind of strength, I think, when it comes to global expansion for any type of company is to think global but act local. So not trying to do the local thing from abroad, looking for a team or supporters or investors, stakeholders in that country, in that locality that can really support you through the process. That could be really hard to do, especially if you're a startup and you're still going through your own country's regulatory procedures and you're just going to market in Switzerland or in the UK or in Australia or in Israel. So finding that key partner that's going to be in it for the long haul that can help you kind of explore all possible opportunities and find the right one for you, I think is the best way to move forward when it comes to looking at opportunities in Japan. Lots more I can share, but I'll cut myself short for now so that I can answer any questions you might have. Thank you so much for your time and for your engagement. My contact information is here. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to me directly by email as well. Thank you all for your time.
Thank you, Leah. It's very, very insightful, very practical at the same time. So it's very, I think there are probably many questions coming to you in the next days or weeks. But for now, we'll just take maybe 2 questions from the audience. If you have some urgent question that you want to ask to Leah.
I have a question.
Please, Hila.
I would like to ask, why does the hygiene market, the tampons, never penetrated Japan? Why does she think, Leah, why does you think tampons never penetrated Japan?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I think this is the same kind of issue we see in Singapore, in Thailand, and in Vietnam as well. The number of tampon users is significantly lower in these countries compared to the US, the UK, a lot of Western countries, especially like France. Menstrual cups are just starting to become a thing as well. I think there's twofold. So one is the cultural taboo and the kind of hesitation around putting something inside one's body. So that's just a big cultural shift that needs to change with education. And also when it comes to initiatives in schools, when it comes to sex ed, pads are still the go-to product that is introduced in the sexual education system. So that's one. Another is, I think, on the regulatory scene, tampons and menstrual cups are a class 1 medical device in Japan. And so so I see some surprised faces and we get that reaction all the time. But that's, I think, another entry barrier when it comes to manufacturers of these products, knowing that, in their home country, it wouldn't be considered a medical product at all. And then coming to Japan, they feel like there's a big hurdle. But the class 1 medical classification is so that we can put actual safety regulations around these products. I think those are the two biggest things that have stopped tampons and menstrual cups becoming a norm or becoming mainstream. But it is changing slowly.
Very good. We have time for another question. Otherwise, yeah, I think maybe I will ask, if there is no other question, I will ask you the question, Leah, is you are backed by some companies, right? And financially, I mean, what is your status in terms of foundings and everything? So what is you invested by Japan?
We as Fermata, you mean, as a company?
Yeah, for Fermata, yeah.
Yeah, so like I mentioned, we are a startup. We established our company back in 2019. We just finished a round of fundraising a few months ago, and we are at the stage of looking into maybe fundraising again in about a year and a half or so. But at this point, we see that the growth that the femtech industry is facing, we are able to stay front of that trend. So the scale of business we are at right now, we're not looking for any investment with anything. We're in a position to help companies like you look for partners and investors in markets like Japan. So I know after us, you're going to be hearing from Global Brains, which has also been a great supporter of Fermata as well. But I think it's really important to not just look for who the right financial partner is going to be just from our own experience, but who is really looking at femtech as the potential that it has to change society and change cultures, which I think all of your companies are actually trying to do on a very targeted scale, but to look for partners who can actually make that impact at a much larger scale in Japan is going to be key in succeeding in a market like Japan.
Okay, yeah, I wanted you to tell the name of the of the next speaker, and because when we talk about investment in the femtech industry, there is one name which is coming over and over. It's Global Brain. You mentioned it, nice. So yeah, Global Brain is a very significant investor and VC in Japan in this domain, and we're super happy to have Minagawa-san talking today. She will tell you more about Global Brain, but Global Brain is an independent venture capital company. They have a pretty large fund, which is $1.5 billion US dollars in asset under management. And they have another big interest, which is not the case for all of the VCs in Japan. They have a global reach. So they are really interested in different locations, like the US, Southeast of Asia, and Australia, and Europe, of course. And their configuration is quite interesting as well, but Minagawa-san will tell you more, is that they really, they manage the funds from very large companies in Japan. So this is one of their mission. And so we're happy today, lucky to have Tomoko Minagawa-san. She's Director of Investment at Global Brain. And she's leading the Femtech practice at Global Brain. Minagawa-san, yoroshiku onegai shimasu. Dozo.
Thank you very much for your introduction, Nicholas. And it was really great to have a chance to talk to you, everyone here. So yeah, so let me show my presentation. Okay. So today I'd like to talk about the femtech market and the investment trend in Japan. And I think many of you actually located outside Japan. I think few of the attendees are from Japan, but that'd be really great if you get any takeouts and any like learnings from my presentation here today. So today I have full agenda. So first, let me briefly introduce myself and the company Global Brain. And then I'd like to go into the details about femtech market overview and also some femtech players and topics here in Japan. Some of the topics are already covered by Fermata Liaison, but probably I could just skip some of the topics and go into some other details. And then I'd like to close my presentation with some key messages for the people, like players who are interested in Japanese market. So the first topic. So let me introduce myself very briefly. So again, I'm Tomoko Minagawa, Director of Investment Group from Global Brain Corporation, which is the independent leading Japanese VC, and with several offices in global. I will talk about a bit more about the next on the next slide. And myself, I actually engaged in the startup investment in Japan and also global, with the focus on the domains of femtech and other areas like fintech, insurtech, and broad range of deep tech, such as AI or robotics or like automation areas. Before joining Global Brain, I actually specialized in the management consulting for many years, supporting Japanese enterprise companies to go abroad, such as cross-border business development, open innovation strategy, and strategic alliance implementation with the local players. So I have experience in IBM and global consulting firm, and also before Global Brain, I was the CXO of the AI startup based in Tokyo. I have master's in engineering at University of Tokyo and also MBA in Cambridge. So very brief overview about Global Brain. So Nicholas-san and I already mentioned Global Brain is one of the leading VC firms based in Tokyo, investing mainly in early stage startups such as Series A and Pre-A, Series B. And we actually have 20 years investment history, and currently total fund AUM is a bit larger than 1.5 billion yen. US dollar. And you see on right-hand side, we actually headquartered in Tokyo, but also offices in Korea, Singapore, in Asia, and also UK, London, and US Silicon Valley. We actually have people in New York City and also Berlin, and currently planning to launch new offices in China and India, which is probably depending on the COVID-19 situation. But with these offices, we are trying to reach most of the global important startup ecosystem, which is kind of very rare among Japanese VC. And again, our focus is Series A and with the ticket size 1 to 3 million US dollar. But we also go earlier, post-seed or later Series B, with the focus areas such as AI, cybersecurity, cloud tech, fintech, blockchain, automotive, robotics, drone, aerospace, and healthcare. So healthcare medical area is also a recent review focus area for us. So this is just very like example of our portfolio company. So you see some of the 1/3 of our investment actually go into the players outside Japan, such as Europe, North America, and Asia. So probably you may see some of the players like Helix or Lime or like Securitized Bank or some other players. Okay, so now let me go into details about fintech market about Japan. So from now I only talk about Japanese market. So probably you can just compare the situation in your local area and Japanese market. So before going into the fintech, I'd like to talk a bit about healthcare investment in Japan. So you see left-hand side, healthcare investment in volume, budget, and also the number of deals increased a lot in 2018 and also still keep growing with the COVID-19 situation. But when you see right-hand side, still healthcare investment shows very low percentage, under 5% of total investment. So that means we can see more and more white space, like space to grow here in Japan. And another thing I'd like to like mention about healthcare market Japan, partially already mentioned by Ria-san, but Japanese medical specific when you see the like European or like US market. So first, the price of all medical uniformly by regulator, by government. So that means you can't change any price of the authorized medical service. And second, national health insurance system covers everyone with easy access and inexpensive cost. That means you can just like go to the clinic or hospital to get, and then you can get a very good medical service with very cheap cost. So with this situation, what I want to tell you is that it is really essential to like discuss or prepare the difference or like very Japanese local regulations and consider how to raise users' incentive to the like new, probably your healthcare product service so you really enter the market. Because, you know, people do not really pay much for the healthcare medical service here because you can get very nice service through the medical, governmental medical service. So this is one thing I'd like to like tell you before the femtech topics. And then I'd like to talk a bit about femtech market overview. The femtech market you see left-hand side, this is by Fermata. So, but you see the last year, we actually saw very large increase the number of femtech, femcare product services here in Japan, almost doubled within a half year. And I'd like to mention a bit about the definition or like coverage of femtech. So in Japan, we actually like say femtech, which cover most of the femcare products as well. For example, the period shows or period products, or just like which are not really related to the innovative technology, but we like we said the femtech as a kind of a bit broader category here in Japan. And currently, main topics which already raised market are something like period health tracking and also fertility solution, pregnancy, baby care. And women's wellness, sexual wellness, menopause care are still under the growth in Japan. We only saw 2 services for specializing in menopause care currently. So this means I can say there are still big white space, space to enter here in Japan. And in terms of the market needs, I'd like to show some research outcomes telling the women's interest in femtech area. So left-hand side, you see the very basic research, general questions about knowledge and interest about femtech with the 1,000 women. So the first question is, do you know femtech? Only less than 2% people knows the femtech with the definition. So that means still very, very early stage. And the second question, how much do you have expectation you expect for femtech after knowing the definition? So you see younger generations show more interest and expectation towards femtech solution. That means very good outcome, which means you can expect a very large hidden market here in Japan, which is not still open to the real market. And the outcome, right-hand side, you see the research on women's life plan and work. So I'm not sure what the real latest situation in other countries, but here in Japan, still most of the working women very struggle how to balance her life plan, such as marriage and childbirth, and also the working condition, including the promotion. So the first question that, have you ever worried about your private plan when you consider working life, to keep working life or promotion? So almost 19% of women said yes. So most of the women actually think how to balance their two lives. And also the second question, would the company welfare program to support fertility treatment have any advantage on your decision making of your next career? So more than 50% women said yes, but on the other hand, very rare case that company offer the full valuation of the support for the this kind of fertility treatment or this kind of services. So this is also shows that there's big hidden market in for that market and big needs from Japanese women. And I also like to talk about government policies. Most of the topics are already covered by Ria-san. So Japan is also kind of very famous about low birth rate. So the government started to expand their support for fertility treatment for the couples, and also femtech special discussion is going on the special council group, and also METI, Ministry of Economy, Trade and Industry, started the special grant funding program for the femtech players, and now currently accepting the application from the players. So all these initiatives not only help femtech players, but also raise big argument and big attention from media and social recognition. So I think this makes the market trend much more accelerated. And I also like to talk a bit about some examples about players topics in Japan. This also partially covered by Ria-san. So Last year, we actually saw many femtech players launched new products or new services and started sales via online or real shops. And Fermata is one of the very leading example to offer the real shop with the various femtech products outside Japan, and also offering them via their EC. And the same thing also happens with the many retail players and femtech players. So they are launching kind of like pop-up shop, one-time shop with the collection of femtech products to attract users around many cities. And also we see many femtech and femcare products launched to reach out the market needs. So, for example, period underwear there, and also Fem Server offers a personalized health monitoring and supplemental server with the device and app you see the middle. And also Ray, this is the beauty and relaxation product brand, which is linked to the period cycle and women's health. So these are some examples of the leading femtech, femcare players in Japan. And I also mentioned a bit more tech-based players here in Japan. As I mentioned, like these players are very still undergrowing, and we don't see bunch of like large number of players you see outside, like for example, you see in Europe or US, but we still see some very innovative technology-based players. So like the first one example is Varinos, which offers the uterus genomic testing service for fertility check. And also Canvas also launched the new product for the hormone test kit for fertility and menopause healthcare kit. And Lilly Medtech, this is the number one leading femtech medical player in Japan, is offering the new diagnosis technology and diagnosis device for the breast cancer, which is just approved by PMDA recently. And the last one, you see right-hand side, Herbio, they offered a ubiquitous wearable device, which is very unique, to measure deep body temperature. That means you can also track your period cycle or fertility window cycle with this wearable device. So, and also I'd like to mention about enterprise players here in Japan raised very big trend from this year. So enterprise players, companies started entering the femtech market from this year, which is big trend. And also some players tried to introduce their welfare program for fertility or women's health treatment. So the first example, Uniqlo, the bodywear brand, and also Omron healthcare brand, announced their partnership, and they developed femtech products, starting with the period care product. And also another example is that trading company Marubeni also formed a partnership with Luna, which is the period cycle monitoring application, and accelerate their new business development in the femtech field. So Luna probably have the session the day after tomorrow. And also, I'd like to mention that the corporate welfare system for the with the femtech, so Mercari, this is the unicorn C2C marketplace player, introduced financial support program for their employees to take fertility treatment, including the egg freezing. So this is quite similar to the Silicon Valley tech players introducing. So this is almost the first big case we see the enterprise player to offer kind of like comprehensive support as a welfare program for the employees. And on the other hand, Grace Bank, which offers the egg freezing service, also partnering with the well-being programs such as Relock Club and Benefit One. They are the kind of like platform to offer the welfare program for the enterprise players. This is also another big like action, like initiative in this field. So, in summary, in Japan, we also see the broad range of women health issues and femtech players who try to cover these issues. But at this moment, this is just my personal feeling and opinion. Fertility solution and menopause solution could be one of the leading areas to grow, to show the growth in Japanese market. As we see, these are the areas where enterprise companies can collaborate with startups when considering the social issues such as very small birth rate and also the small percentage of the women leaders. So that's some of the areas enterprise company could have some initiatives partnering with startup players. So the last part, I'd like to tell some key message about Japanese market. So to summarize some of the topics I told, femtech market in Japan is now emerging and ready to grow. So that means the market status is still blue ocean. So small number of players, only with the early stage players and services. And especially you see much smaller number of the players in innovative tech-based solutions. So this is where I'd like to accelerate in the femtech field. So Japanese market and also I would like to say Japanese market could be the entrance to the Asian market with the strong branding, which is approved by Japanese medical healthcare needs. So you can probably you can plan such as you can come to Japan first, try to get overcome many regulations or cultural differences, or try to meet your product with the requirement from Japanese users, and then you can more easily to go expand into the Asian countries. And I also like to say you might also think about some points. So probably that would be really good if you prepare for the differences of the regulation, social structure, and probably users' attitude toward healthcare services. That also includes the femtech solution. This is something I'd like to set the point. And possibly you can make a partnership with the local players who help you to face these differences and also make your first step more stable. So you can also very free to consult with, for example, the JETRO or Fermata, also other investors like me who are interested in femtech market. And just a quick announcement. We just launched Femtech Community Japan with the founding members here. And we actually welcoming more than 50 players, including enterprise companies, startups, or accelerator programs, or some other experts in the medical regulations. And we launched Facebook group as well, but at this moment we only have Japanese topics, every topics and discussions only in Japanese. So feel free to contact, reach out to me, and I will give you any update if we are ready to publish English content. Okay, thank you very much for your time on this session, and I'm really happy to receive any questions here or later via the email. Thank you.
Inagawa-san, thank you. It's very, very, very interesting. A lot of information, a lot of good things to consider. Yeah, it would be nice to have this femtech community Japan to have a chapter in English one day, but we will let you start with the Japanese community first, I think, later. I wanted to mention that there are two names that were on your slides. It's Varinos and Luna. They will be part of the program on Thursday. So I think it's going to be very interesting to have another layer of deepness from them about how they think about the market and how they grow and everything. It's going to be very interesting. And indeed, there are some quite good players in this industry. We will take a few questions. I don't know, Anna, more than two questions, or what is the details here? I think there is one question in the chat already from Colleen. Are you here, Colleen? Do you want to ask the question directly?
Sure. I can you hear me okay?
Yeah, perfect.
So I was actually just curious to learn a little bit more about the menopause market, because historically we know that we've learned that the Japanese market has less symptoms of menopause than, let's say, the US. But I see it mentioned here and I see some attention being given to it. So I'm wondering if that's changing and if maybe some of that is around cultural roles and perception as well.
Yeah, thank you very much for your question. That is very good point. Probably to discuss and compare the situation of menopause women in Japan and the other countries. Actually, I've also heard that like Asian women have less symptom in the menopause situation, but still some of the people that is kind of like gradation. Some people have like heavy impact, but some people are less impact. So we also see the like actual needs of the people, like women who are facing the menopause. That is one thing, and the other thing, more and more people are like kind of like becoming open to talk about these women's specific healthcare. That means we see more and more needs, market needs here in Japan. And lastly, as I mentioned, Japan is ranked very low rank in the gender gap valuation. So more and more companies need to tackle with the to have the women's health, women's career path, and also try to increase the number of women leaders. That means that women who are facing the menopause is in the generation of becoming the leader. So that is one thing I'd like to mention, that Japan is probably the one of the like important area to focus on menopause. And
Wonderful,
currently we only have two players who are offering the like application or like the community or a consult service via the app or website. So this is very early stage players, and we still need to see how they make the business much more growth.
Thank you very much. It's really helpful.
Thank you very much.
So I see we have one more question from Laurence. She's raising her hand. So I'll give the floor to you.
Thank you. Very interesting presentation. Thank you. Startup, we always find some agile ways to enter markets and test and pilot. Is it like too long shot to think that we can enter in English speaking just to test at least, knowing, of course, you have eventually to go to the local language, but how is it like, does it make sense to do that?
It really depends like how large test or prototype you want to try, because I don't know, but like basically if you want to do the business in Japan, especially that which is the B2C model, B2C service, you definitely need the Japanese language within your application, or at least the person who communicate with the counterpart people. So that means how much trial, how much prototype, how much test you'd like to do. So if that is, for example, 10 people, 30 people, that would be okay. You can find the people who are very comfortable with English or your local language. But if you go, for example, 1,000 people, I might say that better to find Japanese person or to make your product or service into Japanese.
Yeah, it's clear. It's a no.
I have a complementary question, Minagawa-san. Do you think for a startup it's better to approach the Japanese market as a brick, a technology brick, or as a full solution? And what do you think is best? If there is something best, maybe not. But
you mean what do you mean with the like technology brick?
A brick.
You mean like
is a more deep tech solution, which is maybe not coming with a full business model, because maybe the business model is successful in another country.
Yeah. I think you can go both ways depending on the business model or your technology uniqueness within your service or product. And if you are really focusing on the technology development, you can just like partner with the local players, such as the Omron or Uniqlo, who have very good branding, very good network, very good like positioning in Japanese market. Then you can just like offer them the your technology or technology knowledge, your know-how. Then you can receive the kind of like revenue as a revenue share model or something. So you don't. Does it make sense?
Yes. Sorry, there is some glitch on my.
Answer question.
I think we have time for one more question. So who wants to ask the last question?
I have a question. Hi, Clelia here. I wonder if there's a chance to have an overview of how is the privacy landscape in Japan.
Okay.
Especially when treating data, right?
You mean the trading, no personal healthcare data?
It's data. Yeah. So what is the privacy landscape? For example, we know that in Europe it's quite restricted, right, to the GDPR. So I wonder if you can give just an overview. How do you see it?
Okay. Basically, we also have the like regulation about privacy data, but that is not as restrict as the GDPR in Europe. So if you receive the medical data, you probably need to more deal with the strict regulation. For example, you have to get the approval of the user's approval to the specific purpose, and you have to stick to that purpose only. If you find any other application or any other possibility later of your data, you can't expand that. So this is the case of medical data. But in terms of the like just personal data, personal privacy, you can probably expect a bit like more flexibility than the like GDPR.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
So we're coming to an end. I see we just have a few minutes left. So I will let Barbara put up the last slides, and I would like to really thank you all for being with us today. Thank you to the speakers. Thank you to the audience that found time either in your morning, in your evening, in the middle of the night to join us. I would like to invite you all to join us again on Thursday. So if today was more to learn about the Japanese market, on Thursday will be much more about the startups. So we will have both the startups from the Tech Forever ecosystem, but we will even have 3 very promising Japanese startups that will join us. So if you haven't signed up, take a quick picture of the QR code. I'll leave you a few seconds just to capture it. And then we can move on. Thursday, please mark 1st of July in your agenda, because then the roadshow continues further and our next stop is going to be in Switzerland, in Zurich. So it's going to be in the afternoon, European time, and then we're going to dive more into the Swiss ecosystem. So with that being said, I want to again thank you very, very much for joining us. If there are any other questions with regard to Tech Forever, I will stay in the room for a few more minutes. So just stay with me and we can have a discussion. But for all that you that needs to go, I'll let you go, and really nice to have you with us today. Thank you so much.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, everyone.
Sayonara.
Thank you.